Hey, my Liptons. So I wanted to come in here and do a quick review of the Mr. McMahon limited docu-series, whatever, on Netflix. So I told y'all guys that I was gonna come here and do I was gonna discuss the episodes on here. I decided to what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna do two episodes for each. Like I'm gonna be talking about episode 1, episode 2 for this video, and then I'm gonna do another video on 3 and 4, and then the last video on 5 and 6. Okay, because I think that it's gonna be a bit too much for me to just talk about everything that happened in this docu-series all in one. And plus I just finished episode 2, so it's like I'm just gonna wait till I watch episode 3 and 4. So I know y'all, for the ones for the pro wrestling people that are here, that that have subscribed to me for my commentary on pro wrestling. Thank y'all so much for being so patient with me, because I've previously discussed how lately, especially like I would say like last year specifically, like I've really taken a break from really doing, like, as far as like pro wrestling reviews or reactions or having any form of commentary concerning like that world, that entertainment world at the moment, because like I just felt like there was just a lot that has been going on, stemming from like the Vince McMahon scandals, and then the whole like, Bray Wyatt's death, and just everything that has occurred, like, the selling of WWE. I've discussed that on my channel, and just everything. I feel like everything is just like, it's been a whirlwind for me, and it's like, for me, I felt like I needed to take a breather, because like at the end of the day, I grew up with WWE. You know what I mean? Like I grew up with, grew up watching this, and it's like to see, and it's not just in WWE that I'm like, noticing this with. It's like, even when you go right now, what's going on in the pop culture world of things, it's like a bunch of like, it's so unfortunate what's happening, I would say, right now in this world with all these scandals that's going on. Vince McMahon, Diddy, just so many people, and it's like, there are times where I felt like you do need a break from the madness of it all. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, the Vince McMahon scandal really, really hit me hard. And I already reacted to it. I cursed Vince McMahon out on this channel. I was like, how could you do this? Blah blah blah. I went off on. I really did like a very fiery reaction. Y'all guys can go back to like my wrestling talk playlist where I discussed that. I was really disappointed in, as far as like him selling the company. Instead of selling it to his children. I already discussed that on my channel. Y'all can go to my wrestling talk playlist to go see that. I discussed this whole Janelle Grant scandal that has come out, and how just disappointing it's been. It's like, why would you ruin your legacy for something like this? You know what I mean? So, and just for the fact that, let's be very clear. While there, and I think that people, we can, like, you already know my favorite wrestler is Stone Cold Steve Austin. I love that man. Like, that's my faith and everything like that. And, we can, we have our favorites, we have our whatever. And it's like, I think people, obviously right now, people are very upset with Vince McMahon. People are very angry at him. And for rightful reasons. I'm not going to say an actor is not right not to be angry at him, me included. Very angry, very disappointed. And but it sucks too, because it's like, that, without Vince McMahon, and we have to give him credit where credit is due. Like, without Vince McMahon, like, we would have never had the reason why wrestling became at the heights that it became, like, going back to like, starting from WrestleMania, going to, you know, Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression, hell, PG era, if y'all a fan of that. Like, wrestling would have never went to the heights, the mainstream heights, like it crossing over to pop culture, like it crossing over to our hearts, and us having the faves that we have within this world. If it wasn't for Vince McMahon, and I think that we have to be honest about that. Vince McMahon literally has a hand in the overall success and legacy of wrestling, period. Like, we gotta keep that a buck. Like, Vince is the guy. Unfortunately, because due to his actions, you know, his legacy has, it's been tarnished. And it's like, when I was watching episode 1 and episode 2, y'all, especially episode 2 and specifically, I was just like, and I highlighted here, I took some notes. I highlighted it here because I'm going to discuss it briefly about the whole Rita Marie thing. And I'm like, and I'm watching this and I'm like, how do you not learn from this? How do you not learn from what you went through in the 90s? And it's like, you just repeat the same mistakes over and over again. And now in the late 2000s, it's just like, how do you not learn from this? And literally, when I was watching that, I was like pulling my hair out watching it. And I'm like, and I'm not going to lie to y'all. I do think that, and I've heard other people say it too, but like, I do think that the reason why Netflix came out with this is because, like, they're trying to really wipe their hands and wash their hands of Vince McMahon, and, trying to also show, like, the fans and the people that still watch wrestling that, hey, like, Vince McMahon is no longer a part of this. You know what I mean? So it's like, we're putting out this documentary, we're putting everything out there, we're putting out the scandals that he has had and the interviews that he's done back in 2021. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, and I'm gonna discuss it here too, about, Vince McMahon does come, episode 1, especially episode 2, he does come off arrogant. He comes off very arrogant. So it's like, I think that in hindsight, for what has occurred, and I also saw a news story that came out that apparently Vince wanted to buy the rights to this documentary from Netflix, and Netflix was just like, hell no, we're not gonna give it to you. So he definitely didn't want it to come out, especially during times like this, about what's going on, this whole investigation thing that's going on with him and the feds right now, and then the whole I guess is it a civil yeah, a civil suit? Yeah, is it a civil suit? Yeah, it's a civil suit with Janelle Grant. So he didn't want that out there. And the thing is, people are also gonna look back on this whole situation that happened back in the 90s with Vince, and it's like, it sucks, man. It sucks. But anyway, I do think that Endeavor, WWE at the moment, they're trying to wash their hands. They're trying to be like, Netflix, listen, you already know we have no ties to Vince anymore. Put out the documentary, put out the fact that, we investigated these, Vince is being investigated and he's no longer a part of WWE. Vince did come out with a tweet stating that, like, he didn't regret being in a documentary, but he did feel like Netflix has somewhat misrepresented him, and things like that happen, where they edit some parts out or whatever. I get it. Even Bruce Pritchard felt like they conflated Vince McMahon, the person, with Vince McMahon, the character. That was his take. He felt like he hated the documentary. Janelle Grant, came out with her, I guess her lawyer commented saying that, this documentary only scratched the surface, that, Vince is a alleged deviant, a sexual deviant, a master manipulator, that, he will be indicted soon. That part, I don't know. Obviously, we're speculating. Yes, Vince McMahon is being investigated by the feds. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. As far as like right now, because I think everything is heightened at the moment, especially with this documentary being out. So people are going to be discussing this until the end of the week, going on to next week maybe. But I feel like, I have my thoughts about the Janelle Grant thing. I have my thoughts about it, but I'm gonna wait and see if Vince gets indicted by the feds. I just also looking at this whole, like, excuse me. Sorry, I'm very sick today. Just looking at this Diddy situation, and, Diddy getting indicted by the feds and stuff for, sex trafficking, alleged sex trafficking, all that stuff. And I'm like, girl, is Vince McMahon about to go through the same thing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because, Janelle Grant's also accusing Vince of doing the same thing. So I'm like, well, not the same exact thing as Diddy. Whew, my goodness. But, like, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Who knows? Listen, yes, the feds have, like, I think a 97% conviction rate. Who knows? Vince McMahon might end up being Irv Gotti and might, might get off the. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, and I'm sorry that I'm taking too long with this intro, but let me say y'all something. If I don't know if Vince gets indicted, I don't know, but if Vince ends up beating the feds a second time, I'm sorry, that'll be crazy. That'll be crazy. That'll be crazy. I wouldn't even know what to say from after that. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. So let's get into episode 1. And honestly, this is going to be the thumbnail throughout all the episodes that I do. So make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. Let's get up to 1,000 subscribers. Thank y'all so much. Okay, so episode 1, I'm going to be quick summarizing a lot of the things that are said. So Vince, it comes out with Vince. So there's a few people in episode 1. There's Vince, there's Stephanie, Shane, Tony Atlas, Bret Hart, and obviously in later episodes, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, all those people are going to be interviewed too. So we're going to be seeing that. I'm going to be talking about them later. Hulk Hogan, Bruce Pritchard, who else? Reporters. Unfortunately, Dave Meltzer is in, and I'm going to get to that. I don't know what the hell Netflix was thinking, bringing Dave Meltzer up in here as if he's not a whole gossip monger. Like, oh my God. Dave Meltzer. Honestly, I think it would have been better if they would have interviewed Jim Cornette over Dave Meltzer. Just personally for me, I just feel like Dave Meltzer is not a very reliable person when it comes to facts. So I just feel like, and mind you, and don't get me wrong, Jim Cornette is a character too, but like at least I feel like with Jim Cornette, he's more, he's a little bit more of like a better historian, I think, compared to Dave Meltzer. So I don't know. But unfortunately, they have Dave Meltzer up in here. Yeah, so let's get into this episode. So it starts off with Vince discussing his childhood, and Vince, and I think for the lifelong wrestling fans, y'all already know Vince, grew up in a trailer park until he was 12 years old. He was poor when he grew up. He actually didn't meet his biological father till he was 12 years old. He didn't even know that he was a McMahon. So he's, Vince has always mentioned this and stated this, that, he was abused by his stepfather, the man that his mom married. He did not mention this, and I've previously heard this in the past too. But I think that Vince, I remember there was an article that came out that Vince stated that his mother also allegedly sexually abused him or something like that. I think it was like a Playboy interview or something like that. And he mentioned this back like in the early 2000s, I think like 2001 or something, where he mentioned that his mother allegedly sexually abused him as a kid. So I don't know how true that is. I mean, Vince stated it in Playboy interviews, but he didn't state it here in this documentary, whatever. But he does mention that like his stepfather was like physically abusing him for like years on out, I guess, until he was 12 years old, until when he met his father. And he said that, when he met his dad, his dad was like, oh, like that he never had a conversation to his father about why he wasn't in his life for the formative years and why wasn't in his life, but, for the first 12 years of his life. It was just like, life goes on. So, in the beginning, they discuss how like Vince, got into the business and like, how he became an announcer, that his dad made him an announcer, discussing how, the wrestling territories of those days, and, just Vince really learning from his dad, during those, times. Excuse me. So, obviously as the story goes on, Vince discusses how like, he was trying to buy the business from his dad, and that, Vince McMahon Sr. was initially also considering Gorilla Monsoon to sell the business to, but, Vince knew that was like a test from his dad. So he ends up, buying the thing from his dad, whatever. And, Vince, during this time when he's discussing his father, he did discuss how like, his dad, while he wasn't like a hard ass per se, but like, his dad did challenge him quite a bit. And, you know, and from, at least for me, right, throughout the years that I've seen Vince talk about his father, and apart from this documentary, like many interviews that Vince has done, to me, Vince has always came across that like he's genuinely loved his father. Like his father was his like role model. Um, Tony Atlas, and it's no shade. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. And I like Tony, but I just felt like I think that like they want, for this documentary, they wanted a counter to what Vince McMahon was saying or something like that. And Tony Atlas, was just like, oh, I felt like Vince, I'm paraphrasing, like I felt like Vince didn't have a good relationship with his father, or like he had issues with his father because, Vince McMahon Sr. wanted to just purely focus on the wrestling, and Vince McMahon Jr. wanted more entertainment within wrestling. But to me, I felt like that was very like a condescending thing to say, because I'm like, okay, just because like Vince Sr. wanted more of the wrestling and Jr. wanted the entertainment doesn't mean that, Vince Jr. didn't genuinely love his dad. I don't know. It came across to me that Tony was trying to say like Vince Jr. had a genuine beef with his father. And I don't know. I guess they were trying to do that, bring that factor in. And they did that a lot with both episodes. Anytime Vince will say something, here comes the counter. And whether it was true or not, it was like whatever. But like Tony Atlas kept doing that. Dave Meltzer obviously kept doing that. So I'm so sorry, y'all. Yes. So he said that, and which is true, by the way. Vince McMahon did focus more on the entertainment aspect of things during the 80s than he did the wrestling. Okay. So, but then again, that's what brought the ratings. That's what brought the ratings. And it's like, and that's what brought, a more larger audience. That's what gave him TV deals. When there was more entertainment, okay, E for entertainment of the WWE, like that was what it was. So I feel like, Tony Atlas making it seem as if it was a negative thing to bring in the wrestling, bringing the entertainment to wrestling. I thought that was very off, because at the end of the day, the entertainment within wrestling is what made wrestling mainstream. So Vince understood that assignment. It also says here that, when Vince was also building, doing WrestleMania, trying to do WrestleMania 1, that he genuinely I think he he put a lot of money up. And honestly, if WrestleMania would have failed, like it probably would have put the WWE out of business, and Vince also put in, he discussed how like, they added in stereotypes in order to sell WrestleMania, like the whole Iran versus America thing, Hulk Hogan versus the Iron Sheik. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I was happy that Vince admitted that, those stereotypes, of how like the United States was feeling at that time, that it wouldn't fly today, because like at that time it was like Vince admitted it in the documentary, like it was very not, America was very nationalistic at that time. It was like America first above anything and everything. So, and anything that's against America is gonna get, whatever. So Vince basically said that, that's what they were playing off of. They were playing off of like the reality of the real world and putting it in wrestling. Also during it says here that during the going through WrestleMania 1, no, was it WrestleMania 1 or WrestleMania 3? Yeah. No, but WrestleMania 1 ended up being a success. With Hulk Hogan versus the Iron Sheik, and then the episode continues. That's when I see Dave Meltzer, and I'm like, girl, why is he here? They get to what was it, WrestleMania 3 was when this happened. So WrestleMania 3, you know, no, I think WrestleMania 3 was episode 2. Yes, let me talk about no, I'm making a mistake, y'all. I'm so sorry. WrestleMania 3 was like the slap heard around the world, and Hulk Hogan choking out that TV host, because it was like that whole era too, where it's like there were reporters that wanted to expose the wrestling business about being, them being fake and so forth, which also caused a lot of controversy for the company. Also, in episode 2, we gotta discuss this, because I was just like, I was shaking my head when I was listening to this. So in episode 2, Hulk Hogan basically, and I was actually shocked that he actually admitted it, but Hulk Hogan admits to sabotaging Jesse the Body Ventura, for trying to start a union before the show for WrestleMania 3. And I'm like, and Hulk Hogan was just like gleefully, mind you, gleefully, oh yeah, they were trying, Jesse was trying to start up a union because the wrestlers, they were getting hurt and stuff, so they wanted to get, and it's like, I ran to Vince, I made sure to tell Vince that they were trying to do something. And then Vince, mind you, and basically Vince was just like, I went to them and I was like, okay, y'all try it if y'all want to, but like, yeah, just make sure, yeah, I just want y'all to know that if y'all try it, y'all ain't gonna have a job. And what I highlighted in this area was arrogance. Arrogance on both Hulk Hogan and obviously Vince, because Vince McMahon he wants to make his money, whatever. But like, I was like, damn, like, because this documentary was like, it was filmed like in 2021 during the Vince McMahon parts. I don't know how. I think also Hulk Hogan's parts is also filmed in 2021 most likely. So I'm just like, man, if y'all would have seen this in hindsight in 2024, y'all would have probably told them not to put that in there, because it's like, why y'all out here being gleeful about, a wrestler trying to start a union so that they can get some health insurance or to get better, time off and stuff like that. It's just like, and I think that's gonna, they're probably most likely dragging Hulk Hogan right now on Twitter. I didn't look at the hashtag or nothing, but most likely these wrestling fans are gonna be dragging him, because it's like, damn, like, people are really, especially right now at times like this, the economy is terrible and everything like that. Here you go talking about yes, I sabotaged Jesse the Body Ventura on starting a union. That's gonna look crazy, and most people are gonna be dragging Hulk Hogan for filth, and y'all know me already. I think that, obviously wrestling should have been had a union, but you know how the business is how it is, and these billionaires want to make their money. And I've been telling y'all this for a while. They need to tax these billionaires, tax them to the highest extent, let them trickle down their wealth. At the end of the day, they can die 10 lifetimes over and they'll still be rich. So I don't understand why they need all that wealth, whatever. But I think that, Hulk Hogan admitting that, oh, yeah, they were trying to start a union, but I was against it, Vince. Don't worry, I got your back. It was just like, I don't know. It felt very sleazy to me. And obviously, Vince is gonna do what he does best. So I'm not sure. I wasn't surprised at his reaction to that. So, and I also wrote here about the WrestleMania 3 numbers. So, listen, during this section, I really didn't give a fuck, because Dave Meltzer says that, oh, they lied about the numbers, that it was really 78,000 people that went to WrestleMania. And then Vince McMahon said that, no, it was actually, what was it, 93,000 or 98,000? I don't freaking know. But if y'all know what the true numbers were, y'all tell me in the comment section below. Whatever. I don't even know why I got Dave Meltzer. Even if Dave Meltzer is right, I just think that because Dave Meltzer's history with lying a lot, that's why I just feel like he's not the best person for me to be getting my facts from. And honestly, I'm not to say I believe Vince either when it comes to this, but it's just like, I don't know. I just didn't care too much. Here's another part too I was just like scratching my head at. So Stephanie McMahon, Vince's daughter, says that, because, Hulk Hogan ended up becoming a big star in the wrestling business, like he really transcended the business. And Stephanie was just like, I kind of felt, I was resentful a little bit, because, I felt like my dad didn't get the proper credit for Hulk Hogan's success. And I wrote here, I was like, girl, duh. Why the fuck, like, I can't. I was like, girl, your father was an announcer on the air and he was in the background. He was, honestly, we're going to be honest about it and technical about it. Vince was like technically Hulk Hogan's creative person or his writing person or whatever you want to call it. Like, he was feeding him the lines, and of course Hulk Hogan had to reiterate those lines. It's just like, why would, like, of course, like, if you want Hulk Hogan to give Vince the credit, that's fine. But I don't understand, why would you want the audience to give your father the credit when your father wasn't even an on air talent at that time. He was just like an announcer, and then other than that, he was behind the scenes doing what he had to do as a boss. So I just felt like that was very, I don't know, felt very bratty-ish of Stephanie to say that, oh, I didn't feel like my dad got the proper credit. Of course, well, yes, like, behind the scenes, but the employers, with you guys behind the scenes, y'all can, give your dad a pat on the back for Hulk Hogan's success. But overall, like, it's not like at the time Vince McMahon was like an on-air guy. Like, he was like, girl, bye. So, in episode 2, they really discussed the closeness of Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan. And I wrote here that Vince McMahon was basically Hulk Hogan's creative writing guy. Obviously, also, I wrote here that world events and pro wrestling, them equating world events, was, the whole Sergeant Slaughter storyline, and Hulk Hogan, and trying to make Hulk Hogan hot again, because, it was, the act was becoming stale. During this time, honestly, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, episode 2 was a lot. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. Episode 2 was a lot. They also bring in the whole steroids trial and the whole war on drugs. They discussed how at that time steroids was like basically like, you go into a Starbucks and you getting a coffee. That's just how it was until Ronald Reagan's, war on drugs thing, where, steroids ended up becoming a class 3 drug, and that became a problem. And this is where Phil Mushnick is introduced, and people like to call him like the hater of pro wrestling, that he hates pro wrestling. But I think that now, like, watching episode 2, I feel like Phil Mushnick just really wanted to, like, I guess, expose a lot of the unfortunate realities of what goes on behind the curtains of pro wrestling. Like, we're not going to say and act as if, like, apart from just obviously the fish was from the head, and also looking at what's going on with Vince McMahon right now in 2024, there's a lot of shit that goes on in the pro wrestling business that needs to be eradicated. Like, there's some parts of this stuff where it's corrupt. The alleged abuse of women, the drug use, the deaths that go on, the unions that are not there, the health insurance, it's a lot that these people go through. And it's like, I don't think that Phil Mushnick was wrong in putting that out there, or trying to shed a light in that, So, they discussed the whole, and, Phil Mushnick ended up, he legit said this. He legit called, I guess, Vince McMahon or the WWE like a pedophile ring. That's what he called it. So, yeah. So, and, even Tony Atlas discussed how, like, there was a lot of abuse of women during that time. And, obviously, and a lot of it was, a blind eye was turned, So, they discussed the whole Jimmy Snuka thing, where it was alleged that Jimmy Snuka killed his girlfriend. And then on top, and this is the part where I don't like the speculation part, where Dave Meltzer says, like, oh, maybe Vince McMahon could have had a hand in not having the charges filed on Jimmy Snuka. At the end of the day, that's always been a rumor, but we don't know it to be true. I'm gonna be honest with you, I know people are like, oh, maybe it could be true, and it could be true, but I don't know. I don't know how true it could be. With that, genuinely, there hasn't been any concrete evidence to state that Vince McMahon went to the police station, offered the police department money to not file charges on Jimmy Snuka for the alleged murder of his girlfriend, Nancy. I know it sounds like a better story because, at this moment right now, Vince McMahon is the villain, but it's just like, I don't know. We generally just don't know the truth of what occurred. Do I think that Jimmy Snuka had a hand in killing Nancy? Yeah, you know, yeah, allegedly, but we don't know. But yeah, I do feel that, but we don't know. We don't know. Because Vince McMahon had a hand in it, yeah, but at the end of the day, there's no concrete evidence to state that Vince did that. So I don't know. But they did touch on that. They did touch on it in the documentary. They touched on the Ring Boy scandal and how Pat Patterson was also tied to that about the sexual abuse of these ring boys. Bruce Pritchard came out to bat to say that Pat Patterson, he didn't believe Pat Patterson had a hand in the ring boy stuff. And then he said that, but the other people, no comment. And I was just like, Bruce, please. And this is why people, oh God. Tony Atlas though, and I did not know about this until I watched the episode, but like, Tony Atlas claims that Pat Patterson grabbed his pecker, I guess grabbed his junk, and the guy that was interviewing him was like, why didn't you tell anybody? Like, why didn't you tell Vince? And he was like, oh, you don't know the wrestling business. It's like, you don't tell nobody. And Vince is not going to, basically throw Pat Patterson under the bus or try to, you know, throw his business under the bus for little old me getting my pecker grabbed or whatever. I'll be honest with y'all, I never, but then again, maybe I haven't been watching these like wrestler off the air interviews lately, but I'd never heard a Pat Patterson touching Tony Atlas until I watched this episode today. So maybe he has been saying it for years and I just haven't, I never found out about it till now. But yeah, I was just like, whoa. Again, I'm gonna also say this too. I was very surprised that they actually touched on this. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was surprised that Vince actually genuinely touched on the Ring Boy scandal, on the even the Rita Marie. Let's just get to her right now. On the Rita Marie scandal, because this was before the whole allegations with Janelle Grant came out. So I was surprised that he actually touched on it. But I guess he wanted to be an open book. But I think that this might end up coming to bite him in the ass. No shade, because this is bad. So Rita Marie, who was a female referee, for the WWE back in the, I guess, 80s, 80s or late, early 90s, whatever. Vince claims that, like, he had a consensual relationship with her, but Rita Marie claims that, Vince raped her, allegedly. Yeah, and then Vince made a comment, and I hate when people say this. And mind you, Diddy just said this recently too. He said he had a consensual relationship with her, and then he said that even if it, not that he didn't say that, but like he was saying like, oh, the statute of limitations ran out, so it was what it, like that not it was what it was, but like he said, I'm forgetting his comment specifically, but he was just like, it was consensual, and she basically made it out to be that it was a rape. Now, Phil Mushnick, was one of the people that reported on the situation, and Rita Marie was all over the news at that time. Like, people cannot say that it wasn't covered, because it was covered. Okay, she was all over the cable news stations saying that Vince McMahon raped her and all these different things. On top of that, Vince McMahon was going through the whole steroid thing, and them cracking down on the WWF at the time. So they basically said that Phil Mushnick's reporting and everything like that basically led to the indictment of Vince McMahon to the federal government over the steroid thing, not the Ring Boy scandal, not the Rita Marie alleged sexual assault. So that happened. They also, they put a note at the end that Vince settled his with Rita Marie because she ended up, had the case reopened up. And it was a civil case, not a crime case. But Vince McMahon ended up settling with Rita Marie in 2000 last year, 2023, and also made her sign an NDA. They didn't put that out there on the thing, but yeah. So he ended up paying her off. Now, people can immediately say, like, well, if you didn't rape her, or if you didn't do, like, why not fight it out? Why settle immediately? Like, And that's not me coming for Rita Marie. That's more so like on the Vince's end. It's like, okay, well, you claim you didn't rape her and stuff like that. Why not prove it? And you see, and this is where I wrote, how do you not learn from this? Because let's be very clear. Let's say, it was a consensual relationship with Rita Marie back in the late 80s or early 90s, whatever. Let's say that was true and it was consensual. And, she allegedly framed you for rape or whatever. How do you then not learn from this situation back in the late 80s or early 90s? How do you not learn from this going into 2023, 2024 with Janelle Grant? How do you make the same mistakes that you committed back almost damn near 30 years ago? You do the same thing 30 years later. Like, and this is the part where sometimes it for me is like, I can understand why people don't feel bad for Vince, because it's just like, sir, how do you create how do you do this? Why would you do this to your legacy? How do you not learn from this? Going back from the Ring Boy scandal, going back to the Rita Marie scandal, steroids scandal, everything that you went through with the federal government. And on top of that, you're talking about, oh, F the federal government, I don't give a fuck, blah, 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 blah. You're saying all of that in the documentary, even though it was recorded in 2021, the federal government by tomorrow can be like, okay, bitch, you got something to say, we got the tea on you. I think that this whole documentary, and I haven't even gotten to the end, to episode 3 or 4. At this point, I'm scared to get to it. It's just like, Vince has not learned not one thing. He has not learned from his mistake. And and Linda, like, it's no shade, but it's like, girl, like, like, what is going on here? I just think that, and even if, okay, I just feel like, and this is why with the whole Janelle Grant thing, that's a whole different conversation. Y'all not ready for my updated thoughts on Janelle Grant. Because I actually think there could be some merit and some truth to what Rita Marie. But then again, it's like, I can also see, okay, well, it could be consenting. They're framing him for rape, but then it's also like, okay, if that can happen, then whatever. All I'm saying is that I just think that Vince has not learned anything these past 30, 35 years, 40 years, if anything. You go through all of this with rape allegations and stuff like that back in the day, and now you're repeating history. A pure definition of insanity. So towards the end of the episode 2, sorry y'all, Vince, lets Hulk Hogan go because Hulk Hogan can, feel the energy that, like, the wrestling audience is no longer into him. He tells Vince that he's gonna go to Hollywood, and Vince was like, okay, well, you can go to Hollywood, but please, 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 do not, don't compete against me. Don't go to another wrestling show like WCW. Of course, Hulk Hogan doesn't do that. He signs with WCW, signs a guaranteed contract with Eric Bischoff and Ted Turner, which hurts Vince McMahon. Even though it's like, I can understand why Vince felt hurt, because he probably genuinely loved Hulk Hogan and felt, thought that was his friend. But I just feel like, it's business at the end of the day. Vince, you do your business. You out here, settling and doing all these different things. You claiming that you be having consensual relationships with people and then, whatever. You be doing your thing. You settle with these people. Hulk Hogan did what he had to do. And not to say I'm defending Hulk Hogan. Of course, Hulk Hogan has no loyalty. He has loyalty towards his family first before anything. Hulk Hogan did what he had to do. So, and then on top of that, Shane was like, oh, well, I felt like it was taboo. Even now, I still feel resentment. And I'm like, what is this resentment thing between him and Stephanie? I'm not understanding it. So, towards the end of episode 2, they discussed how Hulk Hogan was basically forced to testify against Vince McMahon in the steroid trial. So, it ends there, basically. Y'all, I'm already at episode 2, and I'm already, like, drained and sick, unfortunately. I'm so sorry, y'all, for coughing throughout this whole video. I didn't anticipate me coughing like this. But that's just my thoughts on that. That's what you guys think in the comment section below. And I'm actually afraid to watch episode 3 to 6. I'm afraid, especially the last episode, because I know they're gonna touch on this whole Janelle Grant thing, and it's like it's gonna be so depressing. It's gonna be so depressing. But the other guys, tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get up to 1,000 subscribers, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.